Hi guys, I'm Nick Bester. I'm a 219 marathoner and welcome back to my channel. Over my 11 years of running, I've done well over 100 marathons. In today's video, I'm rating my last 10 marathons, 4 of which were marathon majors, and I'm rating them according to set criteria, not based on my performance. And I would love to know if you agree with me, incredible. If you don't agree with me, then you're wrong. Just kidding. I encourage that. If you don't agree with me, please pop it in the comments below and let me know what you don't agree with. Also, if there's any marathon that I don't mention today that you feel should be in there and you want to give it your own rating, please pop that in the comments below because I would love to know. Okay, so the set criteria that I'm going to rate these marathons according to is speed, runner's vibes, scenery, competition, post-race vibes, and overall experience. I'm going to start with Berlin Marathon. So Berlin Marathon, I feel, is like German precision. You know, you go there, you see the lead cars, BMW. It's just, you know, an incredible marathon. And I feel like I am a little bit biased being an Adidas runner myself. I get sub-elite entries there. So I pretty much go there year after year. And that's where I broke 220 eventually. So it's going to have a very, very special place in my heart. But you know what? Let me rate it according to the criteria. So speed-wise, I'm going to go with 9 out of 10. Remember, the world record was run there by Kipchoge before Kipton broke it. And you'll see why I'll go 9 out of 10. But it's super, super fast. But I think there's a marathon out there that's a little bit quicker. Runner's vibes, I'm going to go with 7 out of 10. The vibes are good, but they're not quite like a New York or London that's just absolutely crazy. 7 out of 10 for scenery again. I think you go to Berlin and you focused, eyes on the prize. You want to get that PB, you want to get that fast time. Half the time you don't even realize what's around you or what you're looking at. Competition wise, now it's a marathon major, very competitive. Let's go 9 out of 10. Post-race vibes, I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10. There's nothing quite like a German Stein and a Schnitzel after that marathon. So overall experience of Berlin Marathon, 9 out of 10. London Marathon. Once again, I am a little bit biased towards this one because it's my home marathon. Well, I'm originally from South Africa, as you can probably tell. London, I've been here for the last sort of 8 years and I haven't missed one since being here. The only one that I did miss was during COVID where they had that elite only race and I didn't quite make the cuts. The demand for London just goes higher and higher every year. I think there was close to 1 million people that applied in the ballot. So it just shows you running's trending. The demand for London Marathon in specific is trending. And if you're able to do it, like I'm targeting it next year, well, let's go there and give it one good shot. There's so much ups to London Marathon. The one downside I would say is that it's got Lucozade gels en route, and I don't think a lot of us runners actually practice with Lucozade gels and are used to it, and it can have an adverse effect on your stomach. So speed wise for London Marathon, I'm giving this an 8 out of 10. I think it's quick-ish, but it's definitely not as quick as a Chicago or a Berlin or a Valencia. There is a little bit of elevation, and I would say at my sort of speed, it's probably about 60 to 90 seconds slower over the whole marathon versus one of the quicker ones I just mentioned. Runner's vibes, I'm going to give that a 10 out of 10. There's literally a wall of noise from when you start till when you finish. Scenery, I'm going to give that a 9 out of 10. There are so many iconic spots you go over, like Katisak, Tower Bridge. You run towards Big Ben, past Buckingham Palace, finish along the mall. It's honestly just incredible. And I think because it's so iconic for me, it's like pinch me surreal moments that just take that pain away, especially towards the end of the marathon when you're hurting. Post-race vibes, I'm giving this one a 10 out of 10. There's just such a buzz afterwards. You finish near Horse Guards Parade, and I think every pub within 2 kilometers of the finish of London Marathon is just vibing, pumping, and yeah, you really get that post-race feel. So overall experience for London Marathon, 10 out of 10. Next up, another marathon major, New York Marathon. What a vibe. Like I said, there's just a wall of noise from start to finish. It's very, very fresh in my mind as well. There's so much to love about it. I think the only thing to not love about it, one is the elevation. You climb around 300 meters, so it is pretty hilly. And 2 is probably that waiting around for about 2.5 to as much as 4 or 5 hours before in the cold before you get going. Apart from that, it's absolutely unreal, and I hope you could see that from my recent YouTube video. Speed wise, I'm going to give New York a 6 out of 10. You do quite a bit of climbing, especially over those long pulls up the bridge. You do come down the other side, but I feel like you don't quite make up the time that you would have had it been a flat route. Runner's vibes, absolutely 10 out of 10. A wall of noise from start to finish. The only quiet sections are the bridge where spectators can't get to, and you get to this part and you're like, whew, and then it just comes again, which is what we want. Scenery, very, very iconic, but at some point the crowds are so wild that there's not actually so much you can see and soak up apart from that wall of noise. Getting to Staten Island on the ferry before was awesome. Like, you get a good view of New York, you can see the sunrise, the bridges, it's very cool. So let's go with a 9 out of 10. Competition wise, very, very competitive, 9 out of 10. Post-race vibes, absolutely unreal. I'm going to give New York a 10 out of 10. Pizzas for days, drinks for days, vibes for days. I think we had chicken wings for days. Can't go wrong. Overall experience of New York, I'm giving that a 9 out of 10. Chicago Marathon. So Chicago, very, very fast. Remember, it's got the female world record there. That got broken this year in sub 2:10, which is just absolutely unreal. Speed-wise, I think some of you may disagree with me on this one, but I'm actually going to give this a 9 out of 10 and not a 10 out of 10. The later one coming is getting a 10 out of 10. Runners vibes, it's awesome. American crowds go crazy for you. Absolutely loved it. That finishing area is something special too. I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10. Scenery wise, let's go with an 8 out of 10. Competition, very, very competitive, 9 out of 10. Now the post-race vibes here are also very, very cool. You get quite a nice like package when you finish. We went out for drinks. I think we went to like a rooftop or a roof terrace to have a few drinks. It was unreal. So I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10. Overall experience of Chicago, 9 out of 10. Valencia Marathon. Why I think it's the quickest in the world but it doesn't have the world records is because it's not a marathon major, so sometimes it doesn't attract the world's best athletes. But if you look at like 85% of the fastest half marathon times have been run at Valencia half, and in my view it's a matter of time before the world records go down at Valencia. Conditions are really good, wide open, smooth surfaces, such little elevation gain. And you know what, if you haven't done Valencia, then I highly recommend doing it in the future. This is the only marathon today that I'm going to give a 10 out of 10. I don't think you get faster than Valencia. Runners vibes, the support is pretty good en route. There's big packs, so you get lost in these big packs, but I would say it's not quite the same as a marathon major, so let's go with 8 out of 10. Once again, you go through some beautiful sections. I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. Competition wise, 10 out of 10. Valencia is stacked. I know sort of in my sub-elite category, I might come between 50th and 100th, let's say, at a marathon major with around a 219, 220. Whereas Valencia, you can say goodbye to about another 100 or so places. It attracts so many quick athletes, and I feel like that's part of the reason why you run there. Post-race vibes, you finish basically on this blue carpet stretch along a lake. It's unbelievable, very, very iconic. We managed to locate a pub that was literally right opposite the finish line, so we could sit there, have drinks, support the other runners coming through, and it's probably one of the top 3 post-race drinks I've ever had, so I'm going to give that a 10 out of 10. Overall experience of Valencia, 9 out of 10, highly recommend. Seville Marathon, it's advertised as the fastest marathon in Europe, and I can confirm it is very, very fast. I think it's got the least amount of elevation gain in. Why I rate Valencia a little bit faster than Seville is, firstly, in Seville there's a few pebbles, you go through a few like bumpy areas of road, you cross a few railway lines, like old railway lines there, and I feel like at that stage, okay, I was personally seeing flames and I was hitting a wall, but I feel like if the road was super smooth, I would have been able to, sustain it. Whereas when you're sort of faltering on form and you have to go over those little bumps in the road, it definitely adversely affects you. And secondly, it gets a little bit warm there as well. So speed-wise, I'm going to give Seville a 9 out of 10. Flat, fast, but like I said, road surface isn't always super smooth, and that's why it's getting a 9. Runners vibes, now, there's some quieter sections there. You can't really compare it to a marathon major, so let's go with 7 out of 10. Beautiful, beautiful city, but I feel like during the marathon, you focused, eyes on the prize, you want to walk away with that PB, so let's give that a 7 out of 10. Competition-wise, very, very competitive, 9 out of 10. Post-race vibes, in Spain, it's good value for money, so let's give that a 9 out of 10. Drinks are good, food is good, and just the overall vibes are great. Overall experience for Seville, I'm going to give that an 8 out of 10. Rotterdam Marathon. The Dutch vibes are incredible. They get you buzzing at that start. They have some of their Dutch music and Dutch anthems and songs that you can't wait to get going. As that gun goes, you just end up flying because you're so pumped up. And I feel like the Dutch supporters really, really give it their all for you. They want you to do well. They're proud of this marathon. Speed-wise, I'm going to give Rotterdam an 8 out of 10. You go through some like rural parts that's quiet, and if you're hurting, you need that crowd support to pick you up. I found that I was there in no man's land a lot of the time, in quiet areas, and I felt like I just needed something to pick me up. Runner's vibes en route, let's give that a 9 out of 10, just because that start is incredible. Scenery for Rotterdam, let's go with 7 out of 10. Some country roads, which is nice, but at the same time, you know, you really could do with that support that you need to just lift you up. Post-race vibes, absolutely awesome. Food is good, drinks are good, 9 out of 10. Overall experience for Rotterdam, 8 out of 10. Okay, now we get on to the second biggest marathon in the UK, Manchester Marathon. That's sort of advertised as the quickest marathon in the UK. I'm not so sure. I think London might have the edge on that and be a little bit quicker. Do you know what? As far as like a UK marathon goes, vibes are amazing. I think there's about 125,000 supporters. And I would say just be careful. There's some sneaky parts at Manchester that got me, you know, like quieter residential areas. So if you've burnt a few too many matches early on when the crowds are wild, you definitely pay for it later on. Speed wise for Manchester, I'm going to give that an 8 out of 10. Runners vibes are great, really, really good, 8 out of 10. Scenery wise, let's give this a 6 out of 10. It is quite competitive. Unfortunately, I found myself in no man's land, so I'm going to go with a 7 out of 10. Post race vibes, let's give this an 8 out of 10. Overall experience of Manchester Marathon, 8 out of 10. Okay, next up we have Copenhagen Marathon. Valencia half marathon, it's the fastest half in the world, whereas Copenhagen half is the second fastest. So Copenhagen is a city for fast running. But one thing I would say is that it can tend to get quite hot there and has got hot there in the past. Incredible city, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful in Copenhagen. Denmark as a country is just awesome. And the other thing I must warn you about this marathon is that finish line stretch goes on for a long time. They have like music and you can see the finish very, very far. And if you're full sending it and you're feeling it, then it feels like each 100 meters feels like a kilometer at that stage of the race. So just be mindful of that. Speed wise for Copenhagen, I'm going to give that a 9 out of 10. Runners vibes, one thing I love about this as well is that you run back along other runners fairly often. So you know you're not hurting alone and people are cheering, shouting for each other. It's pretty cool to get support from the other runners, not just from the crowd. So let's give this a 9 out of 10. Scenery wise, I'm actually going to give this a 9 out of 10. You go through some very amazing architecture. Like when I was running there, I was looking at some of the buildings and thinking, this is pretty incredible. Post-race vibes, now I had to rush off to the airport to catch my plane, so I didn't quite get to experience it. But from what I saw, it looked pretty good, so let's go with an 8 out of 10. Overall experience of Copenhagen, 8 out of 10. And then finally, we get to Cape Town Marathon. So I was born in South Africa, lived there for about 26 years of my life. And Cape Town, honestly, is one of the most beautiful cities in the world. I would say it's probably top 5 beautiful cities in the world. And now we've got a really good excuse to go there and visit it because there's a marathon there. And what better way to time a trip than to absolutely give it all you got for the marathon and then celebrate afterwards in a city like Cape Town. So there's so many iconic moments to Cape Town where you run past Table Mountain, but at the same time, don't be deceived because you go through some residential areas that are hilly, quiet, and maybe not as picturesque as the beginning parts. So yeah, that sort of caught me off guard when I did that. But I must say, from like a post vibes point of view, Cape Town is just epic. Like, what better city to celebrate as well? And I feel like South Africans definitely know how to celebrate well after a marathon. Speed wise, I'm gonna go with 6 out of 10. In fact, I actually think New York is probably even a little bit quicker than Cape Town. I think elevation gain is probably similar, and I know every year they're making Cape Town a little bit flatter and faster. When I did it, I don't think it was as fast as it is now. It's quick, but if you're comparing it on a global scale to other marathons, there's definitely quicker marathons out there. Runners vibes, I'm gonna give this a 8 out of 10. Some parts were crazy and then some parts were dead quiet. Scenery wise, I'll give this an 8 out of 10 again. Competition wise, 8 out of 10. Post-race vibes in Cape Town, 10 out of 10. Good value for money, good vibes, good people. It's awesome. And my overall experience of Cape Town, 8 out of 10, definitely worth making a trip there. Cool, well there you have it. Those are my last 10 marathons that I've done. Like I said, if you agree with me, amazing. If you don't, let me know. And if you want to rate other marathons, let me know in the comments as well. Boom shakalaka, let's go.